Hello, everybody, and welcome to today's Maddie's Fun Community Conversation. My name is Christina Lee. I am the founder and principal of Stella Farmer Strategies, and I'm here with my co-host today. Would you like to introduce yourself?
Sure. Good morning, good afternoon. I'm Nadia Oseguera Ramon. I'm currently with UC Davis Correct Shelter Medicine Program and also here representing the BIPOC and Animal Wellbeing Collective. I'm super excited to be here and hear today's presentation. So I'll pass it off to you, Christina.
Yes. We have a very special speaker today, near and dear to my heart because we bonded immediately because we have the same name. And I learned a new word in Spanish, tocaya, which means namesake. So I just use it all the time now. But before we jump into that, as always, we have a question of the day. So we would like to know what's an experience you've had either personally or professionally, where a compassionate approach made a bigger difference than a punitive approach. And it's in the chat just in case you need to read it over. And Nadia, I would love to hear from your experience.
Yeah, so as I was thinking about this, I went back to working in education, students with learning differences and uh, different neurotypes, and the education system can be quite punitive with them rather than more flexible and compassionate. And so for me, I think building trust and rapport with the students that I was responsible for their thriving and success, taking a more compassionate approach always worked better than a punitive, threatening approach. Yeah, and I can give hundreds of examples, but I'll just leave it there. What about you, Christina?
Yeah, that's a really, especially when it comes to children, I think that's really important. Um, the example that comes to mind for me is working as a manager and helping resolve conflict. So we had a employee once who was not on my team, she was on a different team, but I got multiple reports from my direct reports that she was not working well with them. So instead of going to her supervisor and complaining or like going directly to her and be like, what's going on? I got permission from her supervisor to just have a little conversation with her. And I took a walk with her and I asked, hey, like, what's going on? Like, tell me why you like if something like this happens. I noticed that your response is like this. I just want to know why. I'm very curious. And that actually opened up a conversation where we were able to just learn from each other. So I think that compassionate approach really gives you a different perspective too that you probably weren't thinking about before. Let's see. We have some answers in the chat. Working with dogs with compassion makes a big difference as opposed to scolding. Yes. I love that example that where to go? Patricia put about hoarders. I feel like this is a really good example of the intersectionality in animal well-being, where you can't just go into a hoarder home, remove their animals without providing any support for the human as well. So that's a really good example. Nadia, feel free to speak up if you ever want to. Tanya has our local grooming business. She had an elderly person who could not afford getting their dog done, so she groomed it for free and then educate them on the importance of grooming and help them understand what it includes and gave them additional resources for help. Oh. Mm. Lily says, as I was developing my personal leadership style, I was quite zealous about how the way things should be. I was fortunate to report to not just the boss, but a mentor who helped to guide me in my approach. Yes, it's very important. Mentorship is very important. If you have the opportunity to be a mentor for someone, especially someone who looks like you and has similar lived experiences as you, that's really helpful. Hey, KD or Kadi says, working with children, trying to see from their point of view first, similar to Nadia, what you were saying, especially if there's any neurodivergence or any difference in learning style. There's a bunch of good stuff in the chat. Okay, I wanted to share one more. The most recent one that Mary put in about the greyhound. They adopted a greyhound out to a couple. After 6 years or so, the husband was sent to hospice. The wife was neglecting the dog and herself, and the dog was in horrible shape. We took the compassionate approach toward the woman and were supportive of her decision to surrender the dog instead of coming down on her for neglect. Good news, the dog has an excellent new home and has been completely rehabilitated. It's great. Yes, more compassion with owners, definitely. So you guys will keep those answers coming in. We'll share them on our forum afterwards as well. But compassion is really an important topic here in animal well-being, and I think especially towards people, which Dr. Christina Avila will get more into from her perspective on the animal control side today. But moving on to our next segment, Nadia.
Yeah, so we'll have a few minutes for national updates. So if anybody would like to unmute or put your updates in the chat, we just ask if you are going to unmute to please keep it to 30 to 60 seconds so that we make space for others. So anybody would like to share something?
I'd love to share. I'm Kristen with the Community Cats podcast. This coming weekend on Saturday from 2 to 4:30 Eastern Time, we're doing our virtual TNR workshop. It's a certification, and it's awesome for people who are just getting into TNR. And it's also great for teams to learn all of the best practices so that everybody's on the same page. And even I've been trapping for almost 20 years now, and I still learn something every single time. So please join us. I will put the link to registration in the chat.
Thank you, Kristen. Anybody else?
Hi, everyone. I'm Elke, Director at Haas, Human Animal Support Services, and we have a webinar tomorrow. It's Intake Triage Part 2. So we'll be talking about what the data tells us when finders of lost pets and what they're doing before they come to the shelter, and hopefully what you can do to get in front of that. I'll put the registration in chat. And then also something new, Nicole from our marketing team and myself will be speaking at the Find Help Social Care Connect Summit, which is Wednesday, May 7th and Thursday, May 8th. We're speaking Thursday, May 8th at 1:30 on the future of social care, that how important it is to include pets. So if you're interested, it is a free conference. So very focused on human social services, but we're still trying to keep having those conversations on the importance pets have in people's lives. So we'd love to see you all there. I'll put that link in the chat as well.
Thank you. We have time for one more if anybody would like to unmute. Okay. Well, I don't see any takers, so we're going to pass it over to our presenter today, Dr. Christina Avila from the city of Perris, who has a long career as an animal control officer and is going to share some of their more engagement versus enforcement strategies. So take it away, Doctor.
So this is shifting the paradigm from enforcement to engagement and how to provide community support services as an animal control agency. I have a background as a vet tech. I'm not certified. I did that for about 8 years. And then I went into the kennels at Riverside County, and I moved on to being an officer. I was an officer for Riverside County for 8 years, and currently I'm at the city of Perris as their senior officer. And then I moved on as a supervisor because our city found that we needed to concentrate on animal control. And so here we go. Our definitions, traditional enforcement approach. We impose rules and regulations. We often lead to resistance and disengagement. But when we take an engagement-based approach, we're focusing on relationships, empowerment, and collaboration, which encourages active participation, ownership, and mutual respect. And from the last time when I was at Humane World presenting, I was thinking of something else, of a balance. And one of the officers says, I always look up definitions because when I read the words, I just find more into it. And so, balance and even distribution of weight, enabling someone or something to remain upright and steady. So, for us to continue to collaborate with our community, we have to find some balance because we're balancing public safety with animal welfare. And so, what is our goal? Our goal is to create sustainable positive impacts in animal welfare, but we have obstacles. The lack of trust or awareness that we've created throughout the years. Some of us have really limited resources, big cultural differences that we haven't recognized, and again, the unbalance. So, we need to strategize to help find that balance and reach our goals and get over our obstacles. So we should always be strategizing to achieve the goal. If having trouble getting a hold of someone, I would write, I just want to talk and list the reasons. Because I know on our little notices, it lists the laws, which can be scary to people and they just don't call. I'd explain on the notice, or if a holiday was nearby, I would say Merry Christmas or have a good day. And just that little simple strategy that doesn't even cost money would get me responses, and I would close out more calls because most of the time we know that the calls that come in are not what they really are. So, getting more thoughtful, I was thinking, okay, so we were all created because of ordinances, and that's our backbone. So, the ordinances serve as the backbone or the spine of the legal framework, and they provide structure and clear expectations. But there's also the spirit of the law where we don't have to enforce all the time. And so the spirit of the law is the body, which brings life and meaning to ordinances. It reflects intent and promotes justice, fairness, and righteousness. It is important to remember that both the letter and the spirit of the law are essential for a just and effective legal system. When I first became an officer, I didn't take ordinances seriously, but as my career progressed, I realized that they form the backbone of our job, the structure that defines our roles. Yet it's the spirit of the law that of our work that allows us to operate with empathy and humanity. And so we need to find that balance between the two. So again, a balance between the public safety and animal welfare and the public and the balance between the ordinances and the spirit of the law. And we know sometimes that's not possible and we must rely on enforcement, but when we can meet in the middle, it makes all the difference. So how do we translate this into saving pets? As our bodies evolve throughout our lives, shaped by experiences and education, are you able to be empathetic, transparent, and communicative? Sorry. Can you collaborate, educate, and be sensitive to different cultures? Most importantly, can you be truly accessible in fulfilling these roles? That's a lot to ask of someone who is simply showing up to do a job. It's easy to function like a machine and enforce rules, but real engagement requires time, effort, and emotional investment. So, what if we think of communication, empathy, transparency, collaboration, education, cultural sensitivity, accessibility, and accountability as methodologies? So, a method that enhances what we do already, that help us perform our jobs better when engaging with the community. So, in examples, we're communicating, we're purposeful with our information, we're empathetic, we're understanding the needs and concerns of residents to work towards solutions that benefit both parties. We're transparent, we give clear information, we collaborate, we seek information from the community for their needs, and we build relationships with different stakeholders to create resources. And we educate. I'm going to change this to inform, and we provide informational resources to prevent conflicts and improve public safety. But then we can expand those outcomes with cultural sensitivity. And we enhance the methods because they dive deeper and they involve in personal engagement. And it's not just language, but how a culture does what they do. We provide rides to events, that's accessibility. Meet them in the middle so we can provide a solution. And for example, spay and neuter transportation for large dogs in the backyard, no judgment. You have had too many puppies, you haven't taken your dog out of the yard. It's not a problem. We'll pick them up from you. We'll get them spayed and neutered. We'll bring them back. And is what you're doing working? Are you being accountable for what you've provided for the community? If it doesn't work, move on. Nothing can be accomplished in rigidity. So we have some cases here. So the enforcement approach, they would sign a notice, we'll be back in 48 hours. And if it's not done, you sign the dog over. So problem solved. Not really. You can just go get another dog and a bad taste is left in your mouth. But the engagement approach, it takes time. So look at the big picture. The dog is wound up, so it was on a long enough chain. It's on a harness. It has food and water. Mm, it's by the garage. The garage was by the front door. So the dog was just not tied in the backyard and disregarded. They saw this dog every day. They took care of it. To find out, I mean, you can see in the second picture, the fence was ruined. The renter could not get the landlord to fix the fence. And we don't even know if they were allowed to have the dog. We didn't know that. This family, the kids wanted the dog. And so the mom gave in. And of course, they got a husky. And we know huskies are hard to keep in. But the kids would tie her out in the morning when they went to school. And then when they came home, they would bring her in. And that was the pact that they had with their moms to keep the dog. So we gave them information and we bought her a doghouse so that if she was out in inclement weather in the back, she was on the trolley line. And when the kids came home, she went into the house. And to find out that the mom had always been on some sort of service like food stamps, and we know dog food, nothing is provided for the dog, but they really, really tried to keep their dog and they were doing the best with what they had. So this took time and it took communication, empathy, transparency, collaborating, education, cultural sensitivity, accessibility, and accountability on everybody's part, not just the officers. Okay, so this is an example when you must enforce because of public safety. There was a borderline area with a rural area, but there was a school nearby, so we had to set up a trap because there was a female dog that was in heat and all the male dogs were coming. So this guy got trapped and the officer recognized him and she went over to the house and it's very, very hard to see, but he had a large gash on his neck. So we referred him to some services, a vet that we work with, and he went down there. He couldn't get the care, the credit care. The cost was too much. So that weekend we were having a spay and neuter bus. So I reached out to the paw mission that was helping us. Hey, can you fix this? And she said, yes, as long as he gets neutered, which was not a problem. So we reached out to the owner and he kind of like, oh, but my kids have and I was like, we'll pick him up. We'll pick him up. We'll take care of him. And because of my veterinarian background, the dog was not suffering. It was not exigent. As long as he took our services, the problem was being solved. It could wait a couple days. He had already been like that for a week. So in these instances, it's like do we take the dog from him? And then what if they cared about the dog and he went and he did the efforts and he took the services we offered to him and we have not seen the dog loose anymore and they signed up their other dog to be spayed and neutered. So there we created a relationship. I changed this. This was a case that just happened this week. So this is Vader and his mom, and they were picked up because they were stray aggressives. And they were acting aggressive, they were charging at the officers, but the officers knew it was more fear. So we picked them up, we impounded them, and we went through all our resources to find if the owners were looking for them. And the next morning, they were on the neighbors app. And so we reached out, said, please call us. We have your dogs. And they came and they recognized the dogs. We got all their information. I'm sorry, they called in and they said, we'll be there at 11 o'clock. Well, 11 o'clock came on Friday because this was Thursday in the afternoon, and they never showed up. And then Saturday, we were having our pets on parade. And so we were all working, and it didn't even matter if we weren't working because we would have done this even if we weren't. They didn't show up. So the officer on call went to the house and, said, hey, are you going to come get your dogs? And it just was more complicated than we're just going to come get our dogs. One dog was owned by a sister, one dog was owned by a brother. The sister could pay for her dog, but the brother could not pay for his. And the mom said, we'll just leave them. But they weren't comfortable enough to come to us and tell us the dilemmas they were having. And that was not a problem. These dogs were so fearful. They were so scared. The little dog with the fur, he, as soon as you would walk past the kennel, he would pee. He was so afraid. So they had not been out. They're not chronic runners. It just was not a problem in the community. So the officer said, follow me and I'll help you load them. We'll figure out whatever needs to be done, rabies shots, microchip, all of that later at the time when you guys are comfortable. Just come get your dogs because they're really, really afraid. And so the officer said when they pulled up, Vader started screaming just from the excitement to see his owner. And I can only imagine, because I've been there, how this dog felt and the relief for everybody, the owners and the dogs. I have so many stories I could go through, but this one is just an example of that. It's not just come get your dog, and it's so complicated and we just don't know because nobody shares the stories, or we don't take the time to allow them to share their story. This is CCP, a CCP cat. Oh, no, sorry. It was an older woman, and we've been helping her since 2022. And one day I went to go pick up a cat, and there was paper plates everywhere and flies. So many flies that the fly flew down my shirt. And I was like, okay, we're gonna get a call. Like we're doing just the minimal effort here. Like we just need to help her out more. So we went to talk to her, what's going on, what's up with the paper plates all over the place. And to find out she was feeding the cats before she fed herself because costs are rising and she's not making any more money. She lives on her own. She has Social Security. And so we were like, okay, but you're feeding, there were 27 paper plates out. You're feeding 27 separate individual cats. Like that has to cost money. So we offered to help her clean up the yard. She wouldn't take that. She went to her church and she had somebody come and clean the yard. But we said, we'll give you a bag of food, but if we provide you with the large containers of the free food and you put them in your garage, because she has her garage cracked. And we provided that for food and water. And we went out a week later and it was clean. No, and she said all the cats that were coming from everywhere to come eat had stopped, and just her small group was eating from her. So, what resources are specific to your organization to help your community? It could be anything that shows your presence as positive as I said before, us driving to a house to make sure they come and get their dogs, finding out what the basis of a problem is. You as a person is a resource. Your lived experiences, your experiences in your community, humanizing the interaction that we care. And then this, just a few examples of what we do, our branding. We took our logo and we made it approachable. We take pictures of pets that come in for microchips, like a celebration, like, yay, you took the opportunity to ensure that your pet gets home. Working with different resources for spay and neuter. We use two, Riverside County, a municipal and a nonprofit, the Paw Mission. We've been invited to soccer events like AYSO opening days, and we do free microchipping and information, and then we provide dog training for puppies. This is Hazel and Officer Barron. And this is Hazel with us at our Christmas parade. And she came out. Recently, Hazel's owner was diagnosed with a pretty aggressive form of cancer, and she reached out. Reached out to Officer Keller. She had gotten Milo to place a second dog. She knew she could handle Hazel, but she didn't think that she could handle Milo. And so she reached out and asked us if we had any resources to place Milo. And we did. And we did. And this weekend, we had our past pets on parade, and that's Diana. We had her up for adoption. And we don't normally do adoptions, but we took an opportunity because I reached out to different places to come and they didn't show. And so we had two dogs that we could adopt out legally. And this is our mayor and my director. And then these are all our resources that we use to, and everybody looks, all the officers look on Facebook, Paw Boost, Instagram, 24 Pet Connect, Neighbors on the Ring app, and Nextdoor. And I just applied for Petco Love Loss. And these are all our return to homes that we've used all these resources to get them back home. Canelo in the far left corner was running on the freeway, and then we got him into a house, and we were able to catch him. And she had been looking for him all day long. The gardener left the gate open. The pug had been missing for 2 years. The microchip got him home, and we just do these stories and we celebrate them. Our first year, we see we have a lot of Malinois that get loose. And then we also go out into schools and we inform the kids about the 5 freedoms that dogs, and cats have feelings, and we need to provide these things to them. And then in the middle is Officer Keller with Dakota, and Dakota, we found her in an alley. Officer Keller thought she was a Newfoundland, and I was like, we don't have Newfoundlands in Paris, but okay. But she was able to get her certified um, as a wellness dog through the Seeing Eye Foundation. And she's a big girl. She's 8 months old and she's 92 pounds, but she's so gentle and the kids love her. And then we have our statistics, the proof that it works. Community cat has been our best outcome. We were able to decrease our cat intake by 671 by changing our approach and taking the program in-house. We were able to find a veterinarian in the community that would help us. We created a service in Chameleon called CCP Outreach. So if somebody complained about their neighbor feeding the cats, we would allow the people that were caring for the cats to participate in the process. We don't use our own traps. They use their own traps, and we take them in, we tell them the whole protocol, and we go from there. And I think all of the officers have realized like community cat is still somebody that cares for a cat, and it's pretty cool that we get to take them back. We return to owner has increased over the years. 2022, it was 9%. 2023, it was 14%. 2024 is 23%. And currently, we're looking at 39%. So slowly it increases, but it does take an effort. So to deter owner turn-ins, we provide an owned access in the field. So the officers go out to the house and we just sit down and find out what's going on. The best example has been we have a lot of new houses being built, and a family had brought their 7-year-old Chihuahua, I think Shih Tzu mix. And we know male dogs, you don't neuter them, they're going to pee everywhere. And they were in a new house, new environment. Who knows if the dog was stressed? But the officer sat down and said, "Have you heard of belly bands?" And they had not even known about this. And so they went through 20, 30 minutes later, the family was buying a belly band and they're not turning in their dog. So I think that's a pretty great outcome. If we intake puppies, it's contingent on providing spay and neuter because that's where we want to stop the problem. Sometimes they don't know that we offer that. So the owned assessment has been a really, really good eye opener. And I always tell the officers, we're not there to impound the dog. I mean, there are circumstances, but usually when you talk to everybody in the household, you find out the root problem of what is going on. So this is our community and we work within it and we hold an obligation to help the owners and their pets. I believe we've gone full circle in regards with the CCP. Before we would pick up the cats and we would not bring them back. And the problem was never solving itself. So we weren't doing anything beneficial for the community, but I think only making a bad name for ourselves. But now we, the officers, are picking up and bringing them back. And we haven't created a new position. It's not social outreach, or it's us, the officers, the enforcers, the dog catcher. And I think that we have made that full circle and helped our community. All right. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Avila. We have a couple of questions we'd love to ask of you. And I appreciate all the Australian cattle dogs in your. Okay, so our first question is from Wanda. Wanda asked, how do you handle a situation where someone reports in good faith and the person who is reported retaliates against the complainant?
I think I need more info. That's kind
Wa-
of, yeah.
Wanda, do you want to share some more details?
I can share actually. This is a personal experience for me. Um, so I do have a YouTube channel, and it's an advocacy and education channel around cats. And there's a fellow YouTuber that had a kitten that they rescued and basically did not vet this kitten for several weeks. There was a lot of uprising on that person's channel, and I called their local animal control because in the past, okay, let me turn this on here. I have my cat shirt on. I have a foster cat taking care, so I'm not really like, glammed up here, but we'll work with it.
Nobody
So
cares.
I called animal control in her area because I've had good experiences with animal control and humane officers in the past with going to them and saying, this person's having a problem, just exactly what you were saying, Dr. Avila, that that sometimes people don't have the education or they have barriers and they really don't need judgment or punishment, they just need some help. So I thought this is what would happen. And instead, what happened was they went out, they looked at the kitten, and she's over the pet limit. So that set off a firestorm. Long story short, 10 months later, I'm still being harassed by this person. I've contacted animal control. I said, can you just even talk to her? Just because I was supposed to be anonymous, but somehow she figured out who it was. There was nothing nefarious about the report. I even did dedicated whole videos on my channel explaining I was just trying to help this kitten. I just wanted to get this kitten. And the kitten was found as a stray. The kitten had severe injuries that had healed badly, many, many fractures, skull fractures, leg fractures. I have a vet tech friend who basically said if she had been presented, if her vet had been presented with a kitten like this, they probably would have recommended euthanization because the kitten's going to have long-term issues and be in pain probably for the rest of their life. Um, I'm just curious to hear from an animal control officer because I think, and this isn't just with the people in the community, but also professionals that have to report or mandated reporters. I know that even animal control folk get a lot of blowback for decisions that they have to make because they're bound by the law. They have to do certain things that may not be popular. So I'm just kind of curious, how do you handle all of that hate that is, you know, thrown at you at times?
Yeah. Um, I have to tell you, it has been through growth. And thank you for asking that, Wanda, because I did quit. And it's also about support. I was off for a year, and when I got this job, it was a temp job, and I was like, oh, okay, I'm just gonna make enough money and then I'm gonna quit. I'm gonna go back. But then like a month and a half later, they offered me the senior position. And so this is where I kind of turned it around. But growth as a person and really going into situations with an open mindset. Because have I said some crappy things? Yeah, somebody said, "Oh, you're just gonna kill it," and one I asked the girl, "Well, why don't you hold it for me while I do it?" And just, am I ashamed of that? Yes, yes. But in that moment, I wasn't in my right place. Like, animal control officers need to be recognized, and we need to have emotional intelligence to handle what you just said, because it is hate. And this is a way for our community to change our perception, because we are bound by certain laws. And I think the best thing that I've taken away from the beginning of my job is, don't put your emotions into it. Keep your emotions out of it, because we're here to be in the middle. And that's why I'm the balance. Like, I'm telling you, one of my officers was like, "You and your definitions." And that was not a common definition of balance. Like, to stay steady, even though you're going to the left and to the right. And it's not personal. And as we dive into knowing, I mean, and we're combating past prejudice, past perceptions of what we do. Um, and that's what keeps me going and keeps me battling against things, as that reflection on us, because we can change it. We can change it. I'm sorry. I hope I answered your question, because that's pretty deep. I could probably give you 10 different answers in 10 different
Yeah.
days,
Thank
depending.
you, Dr. Avila, and thank you, Wanda, for
Yes, thank you.
your question. Um, Another question that came up is, this is my question. What are some tool that you have used that works with changing the behavior and beliefs of animal control officers?
I the Going out and spending the time to make sure that dogs stay with their owners. Or I didn't know that. Oh yeah, we have that. Coming to houses, having conversations, not taking the dog. What is it that I can do for you that that you want from us to ensure that your dog stays home? And sometimes, does it not work out? No, because there was something before we even showed up at the house. But I really think us as people are the resources. So if your intentions are not to help your community, you're not you're not going to help your community. But if it is, because every case is not what it is, it never is what it is.
Thank you. Um, Both Anita and Jean had kind of overlapping questions. Jean said, "Wow, your group is awesome." and you must have the support of your community. So, do you have an adequate budget? How do you get funding for all these programs and education opportunities for your officers and support from the city? A lot of the people who are viewing are also city government or city shelter employees, and they don't feel like they have that support either financially or just emotionally from their government.
And we didn't when I started here. We were under public works. There wasn't even a manager. Like my supervisor director was a public works supervisor. So I took that as an opportunity as I'm the expert in the room and I'm going to do what I know is right. And sometimes you just flying a little bit under the radar, but you're doing the right thing as long as we were not getting complaints. And why would we get complaints? We're helping the community. So then COVID, as horrible as it was also an opportunity for me to sit at the computer and see what everybody was doing around the country and why couldn't we do that? You know, it started with free microchips and then it led to grants from UC Davis and Nadia, Nadia, I know she doesn't think so, but like I was ranting and raving and she was like, she didn't even tell me she was gonna start highlighting me. I was I just wanted to help the community because why are we 80,000 and we're taking in 2,000 animals? Where is the disconnect? There's something wrong. And I doing what we did in the past is not working. So it took, here we are, maybe a year, 2 years later. We're under municipal services. We have a new director. He supports me as being the expert in the field. And so, like the grants that are probably not going to come in anymore, we've somehow budgeted that in because they see the importance of the spay and neuter and they go to the mayor. And there are people that are naysayers with the CCP, but there's less of those and more people wanting to do CCP. So you just have to represent yourself, like be confident in what you're doing and they will support you.
I think that's so important, declaring that I am the expert in this field. I feel like a lot of times our own like self-consciousness or
Mhm.
our fears kind of prevent us from doing that, but it's really helpful. Emily asked, how do you balance for your team appearing approachable and then feeling safe? So there are some officers who want more policing, they want more vests, batons, more things to protect themselves. But some people also want to move toward more friendly uniforms. So where's the balance in that part?
I don't think it matters what you look like. I know this is not popular because we have the vest and we have it all. I don't think it matters what you look like. It matters how you show up. Because you could be a guy in a polo that is a jerk and you don't have the whole thing. But we have it all. We have it all and I it hasn't been a problem because it's how we approach the community. You can change your name to animal services and take out control, but if you're still acting like animal control, it doesn't matter that you change your name.
I love that. Do you have any suggestions for funding sources for animal control officers, such as like continuing education? Because Lisa said her understanding is that in their town, it's under the budget of the police department, and they don't see a huge value in animal control services. So I think it sounds like she's struggling to get continuing education funding for for the ACOs in the town.
Has she looked into NACA, the National Animal Care Association? Like, if you want to send me an email, I'll put my email. I am a board member of, of NACA also. So if you want to reach out, we can figure out how to get you guys a membership in that. And there is a lot of things on there for free,
Thank you.
for free. Or I'll share my account with you.
Thank you.
Awesome. And I just had one more question, and then my question. But you kind of answered it already. I was gonna say because of the history of animal control and like the negative connotation, do people consider changing that? But I think you kind of answered and said it doesn't matter if you change the name, right?
I don't think so. I don't think so. Um, I'm looking at Sarah's question, to
Mhm.
buy into this type of model versus more of a policing model. And it goes back to balance. Like I when I was in a very policing model, um, I kind of balanced it with doing the amount of calls so they didn't bother me. So I was like the high call volume person, but I was also out helping pets when I knew, and I got my coworkers kind of like on balance with me. Like, okay, let's not take this dog and let's not let's just ensure that it stays home, or we fix the fences, or like look at what other people are doing. Even if you're in your truck and you have your phone, or there's Maddie's and there's other things that you can listen to on your lunch, and that can give you like some background on how to do these things. I didn't invent the wheel. This started from other people, and I was like, why can't we do that? We give out trolleys, and I think Amazon saw us ordering trolleys and they started raising the price on us. I'm like, what is, but you can, yeah. And how much does it cost to maintain a dog than to give it back? Because it's officer time and food and water and yeah, yeah. If you have stats, there's always somebody. Network, find out. So many resources out there.
Thank you so much, Dr. Avila and Christina Lee, for today's call, and everybody for your thoughtful questions.
Yes.
Please feel free to continue the discussion on the Maddie's Pet Forum. I think this is a great recording to share with your colleagues, especially those wanting buy-in from colleagues and leadership. Please share away. Dr. Avila's email address was also shared in the chat if anybody wants to reach out personally. And we will see you all next week. But for now, take good care. And thank you again, Dr. Avila.
Thank you.
Ah.
Bye. Talk soon.